Listen to me very closely. In May 2026, the United States Department of War initiated an unprecedented massive data purge. Decades of heavily guarded, strictly classified intelligence just suddenly pushed out into the public light. They called it the Pursue Initiative. And as we dig through these declassified files in today's Explainer, what we're finding isn't just surprising, it's absolutely chilling. So welcome to the Pursue Files. Okay, let's dive into this. The government, specifically a massive interagency team including the DoD, NASA, and the FBI, just released 161 declassified files covering over 80 years of sightings. They claim it's this historic transparency effort, right? But here is the deeply disturbing reality staring right back at us. Every single case they released is officially categorized as unresolved, unidentified, anomalous. They're literally handing us the raw data of the impossible and entirely refusing to give us a single explanation. We're actively scanning through raw, unvarnished data pulled straight from the leaked dossier here. And I really want you to feel the weight of what we're looking at. These aren't rumors. These aren't internet theories. These are official timestamps, verified mission logs, and military incident reports. We are tracking a paper trail of the unknown, documented by the absolute highest levels of our own military, and it is unfolding right in front of our eyes in real time. When you isolate the timeline, the sheer scale of this cover-up is staggering. It starts way back in 1945 with World War II fighter crews reporting what they called Foo Fighters. Then it bleeds right into the space race. Apollo 11 in 1969, Apollo 17 in 1972. But look at the end of this timeline. 2023, 2025, 2026. The phenomenon isn't fading into history, it is aggressively escalating. Let's abruptly cut past the history for a second and look directly at the modern threat that has severely alarmed our current generals. We need to drop our pace right here and look at this with serious, intense investigative scrutiny. Case file, the 2025 Western U.S. event. Now, this wasn't a lone civilian seeing a weather balloon. This was a massive, multi-agent sighting. We're talking about 3 completely separate teams of highly trained federal agents, all independently witnessing and reporting the exact same impossible event. Let's break down the terrifying, physics-defying orb flight patterns they witnessed. Step 1. An enormous, glowing orange mother orb appears out of nowhere in the sky. Step 2. This massive object begins repeatedly launching smaller, distinct red spheres. Step 3. And this is where aerospace engineers literally lose their minds. The objects exhibited what the official files refer to as a zero-resistance glide. No visible propulsion, no sound, just a smooth, impossible movement that completely defies everything we know about atmospheric friction. And this brilliantly illustrates just how terrifying the physical reality of this is. This quote is pulled from a heavily redacted military statement, strictly classified, meant for U.S. eyes only, detailing a 2025 Air Force helicopter mission. They were actively chasing one of these UAPs. They picked it up on forward-looking infrared radar, and it was registering as super hot. And while they were actively tracking it, the solid object literally split into 2 separate entities and then merged back together. This is not an optical illusion. It's a physical, heat-radiating reality. But just when you start to think this is some ultra-modern, super-advanced drone swarm testing, the files pull the rug right out from under us. Because these anomalous encounters aren't restricted to our modern skies. The Pursue Initiative forced the release of highly classified logs from the absolute peak of the space race. Just listen to these exact descriptions from official NASA mission transcripts. In 1969, the crew of Apollo 11, Aldrin, Armstrong, Collins, they reported a massive object near the moon. They described it as a cylinder or an open suitcase shape with 3 distinct bright points. Fast forward to Apollo 17 in 1972, and astronauts in lunar orbit report very bright particles and jagged, angular fragments actively tumbling right outside their spacecraft windows. Let's move to and see how this builds, because this comparison is where the mystery rapidly deepens. On one hand, you have 1972, highly trained astronauts describing jagged, brightly lit particles tumbling and drifting through the dead vacuum of lunar orbit. On the other hand, 2025, cutting-edge military infrared sensors capturing super-hot splitting geometric orbs gliding through our own atmosphere. Over 50 years apart, yet the core signature, glowing, structurally anomalous objects operating with total impunity, remains exactly the same. But as we dig deeper into these declassified pages, a massive, truly shocking discrepancy emerges. A data collision.
What the military's multi-million-dollar instruments are recording and what terrified human witnesses are actually sketching on the ground do not match at all.
Now, what's really interesting about this is the extreme visual disconnect. Take the official sensor data. The radar and instrument captures describe cold, hard metrics, objects 12 to 18 meters wide, perfectly stable with zero thermal emissions. But the human witness sketches, they are chaotic, visceral, and terrifying. In the Western U.S. event, federal agents sketched a large, fiery orb perched on a rock that they literally described as looking like Sauron's eye. During Apollo, they drew bizarre open suitcases and rings. The machines are seeing cold geometry, but the human eye is perceiving terrifying, almost biological anomalies.
And that brings us to the dark spaces between the lines. Because despite the government touting this as a new era of maximum transparency, the silence is absolutely deafening. We are looking at missing geospatial coordinates, completely scrubbed from the files and replaced with generic terms like Western US. We have heavily redacted secret logs, missing raw audio, and cases where we are entirely relying on unverified transcript excerpts. They're showing us the data, yeah, but they are deliberately hiding the context. Which forces us to ask the ultimate question: what are they actually hiding? Why would an unprecedented interagency operation involving the White House, the Department of War, the FBI, and NASA coordinate to dump 80 years of impossible flight patterns, super hot splitting orbs, and astronaut sightings onto the public without offering a single, solitary scientific hypothesis? Because out of the 161 declassified UFO files published in this historic drop, this is the exact number of cases the Department of War has actually resolved: 0. So the crucial point is this: the Pursue initiative wasn't about giving us answers. As the analysis in our source files bluntly states, it is a deliberate narrative. The data is revealed, but the explanations are completely deferred. They have handed us 80 years of physics-defying, heavily redacted terror and just walked away. The phenomenon is real, the government knows it's real, and they are leaving it up to us to figure out what is sharing our skies. So I leave you with this: if our most advanced military sensors and our brightest astronauts can't explain what they are looking at, what exactly is watching us?
For sharp analysis without the noise, subscribe.